Hi, my name is Mac, and I'm here to tell you, just like it says in the description line, about how I met and fell in love with my girlfriend Friday. It also says in there that there's 32 years between us, and that's true. We get stared at restaurants, and that's me and Friday. We get stared at restaurants. Sometimes people say things, which is almost always disappointing. But anyway, how we met. So I was working at a retail establishment so that I could have health insurance. I was also during the day a substitute teacher, and on the weekends I was painting. So anybody that's done any of those jobs ever knows that I had no money, that I was flat broke. So uh, I was at the counter of this retail establishment, and uh, one night in walks, and Friday, I'm gonna start talking about you now, so you might want to shut your ears until I look away from the camera and then look back, and I'll do it on purpose. So, folks, she's perfect. She's a supermodel. She is so gorgeous, and she's perfect. You saw her picture. You see how cute she is. She is. She's perfect. So, Friday, you can start listening again. And I, you know, that's that's just the way it is. So I saw her briefly, as I mentioned that night. She walked past the counter and into the back, which I knew meant one of two things: that either she was going to be working at our store, or that she worked at another store and that she was picking something up. Um, so yeah, that's the first time I saw her. Now it was a few weeks later, because we worked different shifts. That Friday was there one evening, and I was going to be leaving early because I arranged to have dinner with my son Chewy. Now, so I hadn't seen Chewy in a while, and when he walked in, I went around the counter to hug him, and I came back around the counter after telling him I'd be done in just a few minutes and I'd be right with him. Uh, and he went and sat down, and I went back around the counter, and there's Friday, and she looked at me and she said, "Where do you know? How do you know that kid?" Demanding. And I looked at her and I said, "You mean my son, Chewy?" And she said, "Chewy is your son." And I said, "Yeah." And then she then proceeded to do something I'll never forget. She looked at me and she said, "I'll have you know that I think you raised the perfect gentleman. That he is always polite, always kind, always respectful of everyone, his elders, everyone, and he's so polite, he's so kind." And I looked at her and I said, "How do you know my son?" She said, "I went to high school with your son." And I said, "Went to high school with my son?" She said, "Yeah, he's special needs, right?" And I said, "Yeah." Chewy was diagnosed autism spectrum when he was a child. Um, so you would not know it to look at him, and he has overcome so many challenges, and I am so completely proud of him. So she said, "Yeah, yeah, he's special needs, right?" And I said, "Yeah, he's diagnosed autism and autism spectrum." And she said, "I'm sorry, but it's happening again. Something always gets in my eye here. This point in the story." She said, "Yeah, my friends and I used to follow him around the hallways in between classes and make sure he didn't get bullied." So when somebody restores my faith in humanity like that, when they reveal that about themselves, that they're actually human and that they care about other people. Um, so yeah, always that makes me feel good too. So I looked at her and I said, "How old even are you?" And she said, "I'm 19. How old even are you?" And we both kind of nodded and looked at each other and smiled. And I said, "This isn't over." I said, "I can't repay you for that, ever." And she said, "Have a nice dinner." because I told her I was going to dinner with him. So, over the next several months, actually it was a year, Friday and I began talking more and more. And I was struck by her poise and her demeanor, how she looked at the world, the opinions she had about people and about music and about, well, literature became the main one. Because I was a lit major in college. I was a substitute teacher, and yeah. So I've seen a lot of papers, and I know talent when I see it. And Friday and I began sharing that level of detail about ourselves. A lot of really good, intimate detail. And we steadily got to know each other better and better. And I had been in a relationship, and she had been in a relationship, and we discovered that we had similar trauma histories. And we discovered that we had an appreciation for life that a lot of people maybe don't get. And we got to know each other over the course of a year and a half. And it has made all the difference. That friendship is a rock. It's just not going to go anywhere. It's a stone that's forever. And I'm so happy about it. That's the other part of the story that makes me really happy, is I finally found a friend that I can rely on, that I can keep, and who can rely on me. So we got to know each other very, very well. And as our friendship deepened, my affection for her and for the person she was deepened. And one day, it had eclipsed everything else that I thought of her. I mean, I no longer thought of her as, at the time, 20. I never saw her like that. She's a fully grown, full-formed adult woman who is very much in possession of what she wants out of life. And in my experience, when a woman like that enters your life, you let them do that. When Friday first kissed me, I was petrified. I was completely scared. I had no idea what to do. And I'm so happy that she did it. And I won't ever forget that moment, or where we were, or anything about it. What's really sad to me is I don't think I'd ever gotten to know somebody that well before falling in love with them. And it, like I said, it's made all the difference. I see who she is. She sees me for who I am. One night in my kitchen, she said to me, or I said to her, I said, yeah, I don't ever think of you as being 20, 21, or 22, I think. It was 22. I said, I don't ever think of you as being that old. I just, and she said, I don't ever think of you as being 50. And I said, really? And she said, you're 11. So, yeah. That's how I met her. That's how I fell in love with her. And like I said, the story always makes me happy to tell it. And I don't know, if you want to comment, if you want to be, if you want to use this for something else, to me, it's just a love story. And I'm not going to lie, it's my favorite one. Thanks for watching.